Hello and welcome to Esther's Gardening Adventures. I'm Esther and today I'm talking about what tomato varieties I am winter sowing this year. If this is your first time hearing about winter sowing, please check out my Winter Sowing 101 series. In a nutshell, it's basically a way of growing your plants for your spring and summer garden outdoors in things like milk jugs instead of indoors under grow lights. One quick note before we get going any further, which is that I'm talking about what tomatoes I'm winter sowing in this video, but I probably won't finish winter sowing them all this week, and I don't have to, because with winter sowing, the beauty of it is you can winter sow basically anything you want for your spring or summer garden at any point during the winter sowing season. So that's for zones 1 through 7, that's February through mid-April, and for zones 8+, that's December through March. So you probably, if you're in zones 8 or higher, you probably want to get your winter sowing wrapped up pretty soon. If you thought I was growing a lot of peppers, wait till you see how many tomato varieties I've picked. Now, I am not growing every single type of seed that I have, but it's definitely the vast majority of the seeds that I have saved for. And you know, I participate in seed swaps and other things, and so I think I have my list nailed down, and then I get a couple more that I definitely want to grow this year, and it just kind of snowballs. Also, the reason I can grow so many varieties this year is because I am now renting that community garden space. This coming week is the week that I get in and see it, and of course I have some work projects that are also going to be due this coming week, so I might be a little bit delayed in getting into the garden, but I am really excited to see what that's about. So I'm growing probably more than I'll need in this community garden, but I also want to make sure I have enough options that I don't have to buy seedlings necessarily. And of course, I love to give away seedlings when I don't need, when I'm not going to need them. So I just want to show you all the contents of my back seat. These are all the containers I've gotten from the neighborhood in the last week or two. I got a batch of these containers from someone when I put out a request for more winter sowing jugs. Look how nicely she tied it up. It was really well done of her. I put out a request on the Buy Nothing group, and I've probably got, I'd say, more than 20 containers from people. Okay, now let's get to talking about what varieties I'm growing and why, and I'll get winter sowing at the same time. Yellow and orange tomatoes I'm growing this year include Dr. Witchy's yellow, which I've never grown before, as well as yellow stuffer tomato, which I got from a seed exchange. So I'm looking forward to stuffing some tomatoes this year. This old German variety is an orange-yellow beefsteak. One of the things that really drew me to trying out this tomato this year is that it is a Mennonite variety from the Shenandoah Valley area, which is actually only a couple of hours from where I am. And whenever I can find a variety that's grown locally and was sort of bred locally, I am always more excited in trying it because the chances are that tomato will perform better in my area. One thing I like about this type of container is that there is no place where you don't want to plant your seeds. If you think of milk jugs, there's that handle area under which I tend to not plant any seeds. But with this container, you can plant them all the way around, so that gives you room for a couple more. Next up are the purple or dark red tomatoes. They include Black Crim there in the middle. This is a variety I've never grown before, as well as Paul Robeson. I hope I'm pronouncing his last name right. He was an opera singer, and this tomato is supposed to have a sweet and smoky flavor. Purple Cherokee tomatoes are a staple for me. I've grown them since my first year having a big garden about 2 years ago, and they're just really good as slicers, for sandwiches. Their flavor is really rich. And here I'm choosing to use the seeds that came in 2020 from Baker Creek. Last year, I used the seeds I had saved the year before, and I did have some issues with my tomatoes, and I'm not sure whether it's because of the seeds I saved or just general problems with the tomatoes. So I decided to go the safe route. I think I did about 8 seeds this time. Next up are my green and white tomatoes. So I'm doing zebra tomato as well as a great white tomato from Baker Creek that I got from a seed exchange. This was one of those I mentioned that I wasn't planning on growing, but then I got the seed and I said, oh yeah, I'm gonna grow it. Green zebra tomatoes are another staple for me in the garden. They're a beautiful color. You want to harvest them just when they start turning a little bit yellow. You want the flesh to still be firm. They're not underripe when they're firm, and it has a very tart, slightly acidic flavor, which is something I love about tomatoes. And I love having them in sandwiches with cheese, or even just diced up in a salad. One of the reasons I do a label inside and outside the container, even when you can see the label on the inside, is because you want to make sure, let's say the container tips over and the label comes loose, you'll want to know what's in there. Here are my mid-sized red tomatoes. The bottom middle one is Livingston's Paragon tomato. This is a frost-tolerant tomato, which I'm really excited to try. I may experiment with transplanting it outside while it's still risk of frost, just to see how it does. For this container, I'm doing 1/2 Margalobe and 1/2 Oxheart. Oxheart tomatoes, I've never grown either of these before, but Oxheart tomatoes I really am interested in because I like the shape of them. You know, it is this large sort of heart-looking thing. And then I'm using a popsicle stick to divide up between the two sides because seedlings don't always sort of stay on their side of the line, and this helps me differentiate between it. Look how cute this little packet is that I got from the seed exchange. I think she used a seed catalog page to wrap the seeds in. I did 5 seeds on one side and 6 on the other. That's probably more than I should have done, but you know, I just can't help but make sure that I have enough of each variety. Another thing I like to do is I like to run a marker down sort of the divider line so that when I'm approaching a jug, I visually already have the cue to know that there's 2 varieties in there. These Porco tomato seeds are ones my mom has been growing and saving seeds from for probably more than a decade. A relative, either a cousin or an aunt, brought some Porco tomato seeds back from Italy. These are beautiful, giant beefsteak tomatoes that are really just delicious. And they grow pretty consistently in shape and size, and they don't really crack like a lot of the other big beefsteak tomatoes. I'm using about 4 seeds from both the 2020 saved seeds and the 2021 saved seeds, and that's partly just to help ensure some genetic diversity and try to keep the variety have a lot of robust, healthy genetics. You'll note I've reverted to using a little yogurt container to help fill up my containers, and that does help keep my hands a little bit cleaner, but you know, I just keep changing up my practice and figure it out as I go. Sometimes I do it one way, sometimes I do it another. And of course, I am growing a number of cherry tomato seeds. They include this Arts Colors mix I got from Baker Creek. And the fun in this is when you plant the seeds, you really don't know what colors you're planting. So it's a kind of a fun discovery in the summer when they start growing tomatoes. And in this container, I'm growing 2 of the varieties together because I don't need a huge amount of these. And that's because they're so prolific on their own. Note here how much the soil goes down when you just push it down a little, and you definitely want to do that because they will compact in the container, and you want to make sure you have enough soil for your seeds to grow in and be healthy. In this container, I'm doing Brad's Atomic Grape Tomato, which is an oblong tomato that starts off lavender and turns red-brown with blue stripes and a green interior, and as it ripens, it gets a little bit of a blush red. So I am really excited just to see these fun-looking tomatoes in my garden. They're also supposed to taste good. And then I'm also growing Barry's Crazy Cherry Tomatoes. It's supposed to be a very prolific grower, and I often see it recommended when someone's asking what cherry varieties should I grow. This is one they recommend, so I'm excited to try it this year. All right, now let's take these happy little containers outside. Here's my containers we have so far. Let's see if we can nestle that in here. Yeah. There we go. All right, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, please hit that like button. If you aren't already a subscriber, please consider doing so, and I'll see you next time.